Elisa, you are mother to a boy who have a problem. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, he was born with a chromosome file. It's 18q, and it has a lot of problems. Among problems, he couldn't see. He had only 20% vision when he was born, and he has 50% hearing. He couldn't walk, he couldn't sit down. He was very relaxed in his way of sitting. He couldn't steer his muscles and stuff like that. And the doctors actually told me he gonna be a vegetable, and we didn't have much future in him.
No. And he had some spasticity too.
Yeah, in his feet.
Yeah. And but you didn't give up. You did a lot of things for John Patrick. I remember you told me before.
Yeah, I tried to work very hard with him all the time. I was walking with him. I read a lot of books to find out what should he be doing. He was my own first child, so I didn't know anything about how the development should be with a normal child. So I read a lot of books. I trained with him a lot of hours, and I finally got him to walk a bit. But it took a very long time for each process. Just to get a little result took a lot of times.
And you live in Denmark, and you didn't have some special offer, for instance, from the government about therapy to John Patrick or for John Patrick?
No, we had a lot of control with doctors, but not some training or therapy. It's not very known in Denmark.
No.
You go to a lot of controls with doctors to see how development is, and they were very interesting in John Patrick because there are very few people in Denmark with his chromosome fault.
Yeah. So they have not a lot of experience about
None
this
at all.
syndrome. It is a syndrome.
It is a syndrome,
yeah. And when he was 5 years old, you found another thing that might maybe help John Patrick with his problems.
I was seeing some therapist at that moment, and she actually told me that I could go to have a foreign parent course and try to stimulate him myself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was why I went to this parent course.
Yeah, and it was Temprana reflex therapy you did. Yeah, and it was very new in Denmark in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about it, and no one knows anything about it.
No. Well, and you started up this new therapy, and can you tell about what happened?
Yeah, we started up the therapy, and the first thing happens was that John Patrick got eczema from top to bottom.
Yeah, the whole face.
The whole face, and it was very disgusting to look at, but he couldn't feel anything. He was not scratching or anything. So, but for us to look at it, it was awful.
Yeah, and it took months.
Yeah, it took 1.5 months, and it disappeared, and it never came back. So that was the first thing happened, and then we saw progress, small progress for everything. But the first very big progress we saw when we came to a doctor, and he should see his feet. We went yearly control with him, and when he saw his feet, I haven't even noticed those things because that was not my focus area at that time. So he looked at his feet, and his feet has changed so much, and he was walking so much better. He couldn't hardly walk. He was walking on his toes, and suddenly after 4 months his heels were down on the floor also, and he started walking normal.
Yeah, it means that he had spasticity in his feet. And they were turning like inside, and this was changing completely.
Completely, and he was walking on his toes, and now he was walking on his feet, the whole feet. So it was changing completely, and the doctor because he hasn't changed his feet for 5 years. So suddenly in 4 months he has changed his feet completely.
Yeah. So I remember he could suddenly walk nearly totally normal.
Yeah.
But the therapy was very focused in his visual function,
Yeah.
as it was only 20% visual function. And we could imagine that John Patrick could have a lot better life quality if he could see.
Yes.
Yeah. And what happened after that?
After that, there was a lot of programs. He had asthma, and asthma more or less disappeared. And then after 1.5 years, he was actually have so much progress in vision that he could see normal, still with glasses, because he also used glasses. And his hearing has improved slowly, but it was after also 1.5 years normal.
Mm-hmm. First, I remember that after 6 months, he could see 60%.
Yeah.
When we started, he could see 20.
Yeah.
And after 6 months, he could see 60.
Yeah.
And 1.5 years, he could see 100% with glasses.
With glasses, yeah.
And his hearing after 1.5 years was 100% too.
Yeah.
And it was 50 when we started Timbrana therapy.
So they took his hearing, what he has in his ears, you know, the hearing apparatus in his ears, they took them away.
Yeah, he had here up.
And he also have water in his ears that disappears.
Yeah, liquid.
Yeah, liquid.
Yeah, so the conclusion is that in 1.5 years doing this therapy, John Patrick, he got out his asthma.
Yeah.
He had a 80% of improvement of spasticity in his feet. His visual function was from a change from 20% to 100%, and the same his hearing. Yeah. But you are still now, John Patrick, how old is he?
He's 13 now.
Yeah, so we have done Timbrana therapy for many years now.
Yeah. 8 years.
Yeah, but we still have a lot of improvements. It's new improvements.
Yeah, we have a lot of improvements still. After what we have seen in the first years, he still had balance problems. That has improved slowly but dramatically. And he can now play football, he can run, he can jump, and he can take his clothes off and take clothes on, which was something that we never thought. He can eat by himself, he can drink by himself, things that we were told would never happen.
And a very big change in his life when he had 100% visual function, it was that he could start up learning a lot of things. For instance, I remember he started up using computer a lot.
Yeah, he is now playing Nintendo games and can see them 100%. And he plays on the computer, and he can learn on the computer, he really likes the computer. And they can start in the school, they start teaching him mathematics, and he's very good at mathematics actually, so that's another thing they never thought he should do. So by seeing and hearing now, he can actually learn something, so his learning capacity has improved, and his social capacity has improved. Before he was very close child, and he only uses people if he needed help from them. Now he wants to talk with them if he can, and he wants to play with other kids, he wants to play with everyone, and he also have humor, and he teases people if he can, and he does a lot of things that normal kids does. So that has improved dramatically over the 8 years.
And lately we have noticed some other changes with him. Of course we are changing his program of Timbrana reflex therapy constantly. Depends of what we think he needs to improve. And one big problem you have always had with John Patrick is about moving, things who are moving.
Yeah. John Patrick, they said it's because he has some autism, a little bit of it. He's not autistic, but he has
a grain
of it. And a lot of times when things got too much, too many people or whatever, it could be a lot of things, he turns to look into trees or to flags, things moving, and he goes into his own world. And even we go to Summerland or wherever we go where he should enjoy himself, when it's got too much, he goes to look at trees. And we have now, for a week ago, discovered that we have been for almost 6 hours out in Summerland, where we have a little Tivoli where he could try a lot of things. And for those 6 hours he was fully concentrating on what he should do, and he could go horse riding, and he was not looking at the trees for one time in 6 hours, which has never happened before. If he go, for instance, at horse riding, when the turn is over, he will be, furious because it's over. We didn't discover that either in 6 hours, so he was just going off the horse and now go to the next thing. We had to try this thing, and he was very social and very on with his life, focused on what we were doing in 6 hours. That was the first time we have ever discovered that.
Yeah. So we can say that we still have a lot of improvement with John Patrick, and we still have things to work on. For instance, his speaking is not good enough. We have to work more about it. But to make a kind of conclusion, it was like you got John Patrick, and the first 5 years of his life, nearly nothing happened.
Nothing.
There was no change in his visual function.
There was small changes, but it cost a lot of work. And it was actually nothing comparing to the work I did. But I did manage to get him to walk, but he did walk very bad. And then after we started the Timbrana therapy, well, with a little effort, because I was only using 1.5 hours a day and doing nothing else, actually, with a little work I got huge improvements.